This is Travis Wayne Goodsoe, and we'll do more on Knights Templar. Now, William Morgan, if you're not familiar with him, he had served as, I think he was a captain, something like that, under General Andrew Jackson, who later became president, during the War of 1812. And during that war, which was not by Canada, it was by Britain, and it was funded by the one and only bank that won out, which was that of Nathan Rothschild. And his reasoning for that was because the United States Congress had just denied the extension of the bond, or whatever they call it, for the central bank, which of course was run by Britain, and thus by Nathan Rothschild. And so he was not too happy with that, and provoked Britain to sail across the sea to attack for the War of 1812. And that's the American version. There was also the Napoleon version, that Britain went and attacked Napoleon. And so from this war, William Morgan then made his way to western New York, where the Smith family were. And he was a York Freemason, and so that's the same Mason lodge that the Smiths were a part of. And he started going around after he had convinced the Batavian Press in New York that he had some big books to publish. One of them was about the white Indians of the Mandan tribe. And if you remember the previous video I did, they're the ones who sold the Knights Templar the land for the New Jerusalem. And that goes from Minnesota, where the Kensington is, this Kensington stone, all the way to where the east, where there's the Little Egypt, where the Knights Templar buried some gold plates in Egyptian, and some other stuff that have yet to be found there. They found a few stuff, but they're questioned as to authenticity, because it doesn't look like ancient Egyptian. It looks more like more modern replications of Egyptian, which, yeah, Knights Templar are not Egyptian, but they would be replicating it. And so it just so happens that that's why it's called Little Egypt there in southern Illinois. And southern Illinois, if you're not familiar with solar eclipses, especially the ones pertinent to America in these latter days, and there's the one on the 21st of August 2017, which went across the United States, passed over Independence, Missouri, and Adamon-Diomen, and also through Little Egypt. And the one that's coming up on 8 April 2024, that has some more significant stuff when you go back to 4 AD. Yeah, I won't get into that in this video. That one crosses, goes this way instead in the United States, and crosses the previous one that we had at Little Egypt in southern Illinois. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? And like I told you, the Smiths knew about the ancient form of astrology. Don't get it confused with today's astrologers that I'm not getting into that. It's completely different. And so they, as I've pointed out in the previous video, the Smiths knew about star charts and star signs, and that's why they refer to John the Revelator in the Book of Mormon and also in the Doctrine and Covenants, because he has extra signs in the latter days that are different from just the basic sun darkened, moon turned to blood. And so all of these signs have all happened, but that's why there's big concern for these latter days as a warning. They knew that back then too, and that's why Little Egypt was settled. It was because of this crossing of the solar eclipses and the Egyptian symbolism behind it, or shall I say Egyptian prophecy behind it. And so yes, more lead-ins to other videos. So little time left on Earth. And so William Morgan was going around talking about the Mandan Indians and the chief Great White, White Indians. And that was big news, because westward expansion depended on considering the indigenous people as subhuman. And if they're found to be white, that means they're not subhuman. They may actually be human. And then we can oppress them and suppress them and enslave them. And yeah, that was big news. That's why it was suppressed. And so then you have the other book of William Morgan's, which was going to be about the Illuminati threat to infiltrate, rise into power, take over, and destroy America. It wasn't meant to be a quick thing. It was meant to be a process of over a period of time. The Illuminati also, knowing all about signs in the heavens and the symbolisms of Egyptian and all that, because they got into Freemasonry. And so they utilize symbolism as well. And for those of you Mormons who are disbelieving, Google when the original Nauvoo Temple was dedicated, and then Google when the foundation of the Illuminati was founded. Look at the dates. May 1st. Yeah. So there's another video right there for you. And so the Smiths were involved, as I mentioned, because Joseph Smith Sr. was a master mason in the lodge just south of their farm, where William Morgan was thrown in jail. They used that as a warning to him to be silent. And it happened again, and so the Batavian Press owner kept bailing him out of jail, and the second time around took him over to Niagara, where the incident with Thomas Monroe occurred. We're not quite sure what happened there, but somehow Monroe ended up with Morgan's clothes, and Monroe was the dead body found in the lake. And the sheriff who got punished the most just for investigating, he was the one who identified through the trackers that William Morgan had fled the country on boat. And then the tale begins in another story for that. And so William Morgan's two books, White Indians and Threat to America. Anybody remember the Book of Mormon? white Indians threat to not only also to America, because that's what they're using these other stories for, with the Jaredites and the Nephites, and their destruction. And it's a warning to us here in America, specifically America. Why is it America, Travis? Come on, guys, seriously? Where were they buried? Supposedly. And where were they to be found? Yes. Upstate New York. That's who the message is to, America. And so, yeah, I've already talked teasers of the Book of Mormon code, where the plagiarism in the Book of Mormon is a key code to identify the interpretation of the passage. And so when the second coming of the first coming of the Messiah, all encoded, and I hope people understand that the Jews see the last days Messiah differently than Christians. Mormons apparently don't see it, but yeah, there's a big difference in who this identity is, who's supposed to come in the latter days, depending on the religion. And Mormons have subscribed to the Christian version wrongly, because Joseph Smith was all about the Jewish version through the Egyptian interpretation. And so, yeah, that's more information for you. I published a book about the real history of the real LDS history of the Book of Mormon. I did a church history series as well, and then I combined them into a Book of Mormon series book, and that's on Amazon. So yeah, that's more about the Knights Templar and how they're involved, because the Freemasons of Smiths and Morgan, the highest ranking was Knights Templar, the ones who were going to establish the New Jerusalem here in America and putting the Messiah, which means anointed king, on the throne of New Jerusalem. And unfortunately, the Illuminati threat caused some problems and required the quicker establishment of the Knights Templar to do battle with the Illuminati. And Joseph was murdered. So, there you go. I'm purposely keeping these short, so there's lots of information more to be covered, and I'm not allowing you to comment, thanks to the Russians.